Okay, so we've got this huge stack of Nigerian newspaper headlines,
Yeah.
all from April 8th, 2025. And you know what really jumps out at me? Just how many different topics they cover.
Great.
I mean, we've got the political scene, economic stuff, social issues, international relations. It's all in here.
It's a whole snapshot of what was going on in Nigeria that day. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And I think for this deep dive, what we should try to do is,
Yeah.
I mean, we don't want to get bogged down in every single headline, right?
No, not at all.
So maybe we pull out the most important and interesting bits
I like that.
and
Yeah.
try to kind of give our listeners a clear picture of the big things that were happening and, and what they might mean.
Yeah, I think that's the perfect approach for this,
Yeah.
Give them the key insights without overwhelming them with every little detail.
Exactly. All right. So let's dive into this. I guess
Yeah.
the most obvious place to start is with politics and governance.
Sure.
And right away, one headline jumps out. The presidency denying the INEC chairman was sacked.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
That tells me there were some pretty strong rumors flying around,
Right. And it makes sense. The INE, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, right? They're in charge of elections, and their leadership is always a sensitive topic.
Especially given, Nigeria's history with elections.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't always been the smoothest process.
Right. So for the presidency to come out and deny this so quickly,
Yeah,
it shows how important it is for them to keep people confident in the whole electoral process.
absolutely. It's all about maintaining that public trust.
Okay, so speaking of public sentiment, we also saw headlines about police breaking up Take It Back movement protests.
Oh, right, in Abuja and Port Harcourt, yeah.
Yeah, both cities.
These guys are pretty vocal.
Yeah, we've seen them before. They're not afraid to speak their minds. They're activists on a whole range of issues, right?
Yeah, socio-political, you name it, they've probably got an opinion on it.
And I guess this is just a good example of, the ongoing sort of
And police
dynamic.
reserving, yeah.
Yeah, the tension between citizens expressing their right to protest and the government, trying to keep things under control.
It's a balancing act, for sure.
It is. Okay, moving on. It looks like the push for more autonomy for local governments, it's still going strong.
Yeah, it's been a long road.
There are headlines about governors still allegedly trying to stop council chairmen from having their own accounts at the CBN.
The central bank, yeah.
It's like this back and forth that's been going on forever,
Right, that struggle between the states and the local governments.
And the idea is that if the local governments have more control over their money,
Yeah, more autonomy.
right, then they can, manage their own affairs more independently.
Exactly. But the states still have a lot of influence, as we can see.
Yeah. It's
a power struggle.
It is. Okay, well, shifting gears a bit, President Tinubu reaffirmed his commitment to modernizing the police force.
Right, yeah, I saw that.
And, I mean, given all the security challenges in the country,
Definitely.
it's something that I think resonates with a lot of people.
Yeah, I think so, too.
But, modernizing the police force,
Yeah.
that's not just about, giving them more officers.
No, exactly. It's bigger than that.
It's about the training, right?
Mm-hmm.
And making sure they have the right technology and equipment
And resources. Yeah,
to be effective in the 21st century.
absolutely. They
Yeah.
need the tools to do the job.
Okay, so on the international front, it looks like Nigeria is strengthening its ties with Sweden.
Oh, how so?
Well, Vice President Chedema met with Princess Victoria. That's a pretty high-level diplomatic engagement.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Those visits are important,
They are.
They can really open doors for cooperation between countries.
Mm-hmm.
Everything from trade and investment
Yeah.
to cultural exchanges, even working together on global issues.
It's interesting, isn't it, how, these international relationships, they can have such a big impact on what happens at home.
Absolutely. It's all interconnected.
Okay, well, back on home soil, we saw the Senate leader making a trip to Ekiti, donating vehicles and wheelchairs.
Right, yeah. Those local engagements are often big news.
They are, and it makes you wonder, what's the thinking behind that?
Well, on one hand, it's obviously about helping people in need,
Yeah.
providing practical support to the community. But on the other hand, it's also a way for political figures to
You're going to raise their profile.
exactly stay visible, show they're engaged with the people.
Okay, then there's this headline about the House of Representatives summoning a minister.
What was that about?
Seems like there's this fish farm estate in Abuja that's been neglected.
Oh, interesting.
And the House They're stepping in to try to hold the government accountable.
Right, using their oversight powers to make sure resources are being used properly?
Yeah. And then over in the judicial branch,
Okay.
the Chief Justice of Nigeria, he's actually warning judges about the risk of cyber attacks.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I mean, in this day and age,
Everything's digital.
right. I mean, every institution needs to be worried about cybersecurity.
Definitely. Especially the judiciary. I mean, they handle so much sensitive data.
Yeah. And it's not just about data breaches either.
No, you're right.
It's about making sure that court processes can't be disrupted.
That's crucial. You can't have the legal system grinding to a halt because of a cyber attack.
And then there's this legal battle brewing. It looks like Natasha has filed a huge defamation suit against Nobonia.
Wow, 5 billion naira. That's not small change.
It's a lot of money.
It is. These kinds of lawsuits usually come from some kind of public dispute, right?
Yeah.
And they really highlight just how much damage someone's words can do to another person's reputation.
And the Edo state governorship election, that's still being fought out. It's heading to the appeal court now.
Oh, so the initial result is being challenged.
Yeah.
That's not uncommon, is it?
No.
When there are disputes over election results, the legal process allows for appeals.
Right.
So this just means there are still some legal questions that need to be sorted out.
Exactly. Okay, and the trial for Binance and its executives, the one about tax evasion,
Oh, yeah, I've been following that one.
it's been adjourned until April 30th.
It's a big case, especially with how prominent Binance is in the whole cryptocurrency world.
Right. And I think this case is raising some really important questions about how cryptocurrency operations should be regulated and taxed here in Nigeria.
It's a whole new frontier, really.
It is. Okay. Over in Bauchi State, the EFCC has arraigned the state's accountant general.
On what charges?
Alleged fraud. And it's a lot of money we're talking about.
How much?
Like 8.3 billion naira.
Wow.
It's a huge case.
Cases like this are a reminder that the fight against corruption is far from over.
Yeah, it shows how deep it can run.
And this arraignment, it's a key step in that legal process, holding people accountable.
Absolutely. Okay, then there's this, well, it's a kind of unusual story out of Kebbi. This government official who'd made some claims about homosexuality, he's now withdrawn them.
Oh, really? Why'd he do that?
Well, apparently he was brought before an ulama panel.
Ah, so there was pressure from religious authorities.
Yeah, seems like it.
This really shows how religion can influence social issues in some parts of Nigeria.
It does, and it's not always straightforward, you know. You've got cultural norms, religious beliefs, and then the legal system.
Yeah, it can be a very complex mix.
It can. All right, let's talk about security.
Okay.
The Chief of Army Staff has announced plans to deploy more troops to Plateau State.
To those troubled communities, yeah.
Yeah. That area has seen so much unrest.
It's a real tragedy.
And, I mean, deploying more troops, that's the government's response, right?
It's a way to try to restore order, stop the violence.
Yeah. But the real challenge, I think, is addressing the root causes of that violence.
You're absolutely right. Troop deployments might bring some temporary peace, but they're not a long-term solution.
No. Okay, on a slightly brighter note, the Defense Headquarters has denied any ransom payments.
Oh, for the former NYSC Director General?
Yeah?
They rescued him, right?
They did. And they're actually praising the military operation that led to his rescue.
You know, successes like this are important, you know?
They are.
They give people hope, show that the security forces can actually make a difference.
Yeah, especially with all the kidnappings we've been seeing.
It's a constant worry for people.
It is.
Yeah.
Okay, well, inside the Labor Party, it looks like there's some infighting going on.
Between who?
The Peter Obi camp and the Julius Ebio camp.
Ah, two different factions, yeah.
Yeah, they're clashing over these parallel NEC meetings.
That's not a good sign, is it?
No.
I mean, disagreements within political parties happen. It's normal.
Yeah.
But when it gets to this level, it can really damage the party's ability to function effectively.
Yeah. Okay, over in River State, there are some serious accusations being made.
Oh.
Suspects in that assembly bombing case, the ones who were freed, they're now claiming that there was a plot to frame Governor Fubar's chief of staff.
That's a big allegation.
It is.
And it could really escalate the political tensions in the state.
Yeah. And we saw that in Anambra State, Governor Soludo has named the Anambra Airport Road after former Governor Obiano.
Oh, that's interesting.
It's a gesture that often happens,
Yeah.
you know, recognizing past service.
Yeah, it's like a way of acknowledging what someone has done for the state.
But it can be controversial, right?
Oh, definitely. People have different opinions about who deserves to be honored in that way.
And then we're back in Kebbi State, where the governor is asking for a permanent military base
Why is that?
because of the attacks in the Lakarawa area. They've been really persistent.
Yeah, the security concerns in the north, they're not going away easily.
No.
And asking for a permanent military base, that really shows how serious the situation is.
Yeah, it does. Okay, so after those tragic deaths of miners,
Oh, right.
Governor Audie in Abia State, he's trying to get other Southeast governors on board with a joint security task force.
That makes sense.
Yeah, working together across state lines.
It's about sharing resources, intelligence, coming up with more coordinated responses to these challenges.
Exactly. Okay, in Lagos, it looks like the tech sector is getting a boost.
Oh, how so?
Well, Governor Sanwo-Olu is going to be unveiling RAC Center's new 12 million data hub.
That's a big deal for the digital infrastructure.
It is.
I mean, data centers like this are essential for a thriving digital economy.
Yeah.
They provide the backbone for businesses and online services.
Okay, there have been some leadership changes in the Edo State House of Assembly.
What happened?
They've got a new majority leader and chief whip.
Right. Those are key roles in the assembly.
They are. And, changes like this, they can sometimes signal, shifts in power dynamics.
Yeah, or even changes in the priorities of the assembly itself.
Interesting. And it looks like Lagos State judges are taking a well-deserved break.
Oh, a vacation.
Yeah, a 7-day Easter vacation.
Well, they deserve it. Everyone needs some time off.
Absolutely. And in Ogun State, there's a bit of a row brewing over land acquisition.
For what?
For the Ogun Free Trade Zone, the OGFTZ.
These land issues can be really tricky. I mean, if the acquisition isn't handled properly, if communities aren't consulted, and if they're not fairly compensated,
they can lead to conflict.
Yeah, big time.
Okay, so Kebbi State is back in the news. The government there has announced they'll be providing free medication for diabetes, hypertension, and sickle cell disease.
Wow, that's a great initiative.
It is. It's a big step towards better public health.
Especially for people struggling with chronic conditions.
Exactly. And they're also building 4 new primary schools in the state.
They are. Why is that?
To meet the needs of specific communities, they said.
That's great. Investing in primary education, that's crucial for the future of the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And we saw a report of a senator in Kaduna. He donated food items and 11 million naira to orphans and widows.
It's nice to see people stepping up to help those in need.
It is.
Those acts of generosity, they can make a real difference, especially for the most vulnerable.
Yeah. But it also makes you think about, the bigger picture.
Right.
Like, what are the systemic issues that are creating this need in the first place?
Exactly. It's not just about individual acts of charity. It's about addressing the root causes.
Right. Okay. In Edo State, vigilante groups are protesting.
Oh, what
The police have confiscated their weapons.
Interesting. That raises some tough questions, doesn't it?
Yeah, about the role of these non-state security actors.
It's a complex issue. On one hand, they can help fill security gaps, but then there are concerns about their legality, their training, and who they're accountable to.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is.
Okay, Gombe State is focusing on youth empowerment.
How are they doing that?
They're providing training and giving young people startup packages to help them start their own businesses.
That's a great way to tackle unemployment and boost the economy. When you give young people the skills and resources they need, it can have a ripple effect,
Yeah, it can. And in Elson State, there are 3,000 villagers who've been displaced.
Oh, that's awful.
And they're appealing to the government for help.
Displacement creates so many challenges.
It does.
Shelter, food, finding ways to get people back on their feet. It's a huge task.
And in Anambra State, the police are still patrolling communities.
To stop the Monday sit-at-home, right? That's been such a disruptive force in the Southeast.
It has.
And, the police presence is about trying to restore some normalcy, making sure people can go about their lives safely.
Yeah. Then there's this really disturbing report from Delta State.
What happened?
A family is accusing the police of torturing their son to death while he was in custody.
Oh, that's terrible.
They're petitioning the police, demanding a full investigation.
Allegations like this are incredibly serious.
They are.
They really underscore the need for police accountability, making sure that law enforcement upholds human rights.
Absolutely. And in Lagos, the police have busted a baby factory.
A baby factory? What's that?
It's a place where babies are basically produced and sold illegally.
Oh, that's horrible.
It is. They rescued 10 victims and arrested 3 people who were running the operation.
This just shows you how deep some of these social problems run.
It does. It's a reminder that there's so much work to be done to protect vulnerable people.
You're right. We can't ignore these issues.
Okay, some sad news from Kansas State. A PUNCH newspaper reporter has passed away.
Oh, no.
The governor and the NUJ, the Nigerian Union of Journalists, have both expressed their condolences.
It's always a loss when a journalist dies.
It is.
They play such an important role in society, bringing us the news, holding power accountable.
Yeah. And sometimes they do that at great risk to themselves.
They do.
Okay, there are some rumblings in the political landscape. Apparently, some APC governors visited former President Buhari.
Oh, interesting. Why is that?
And at the same time, there are reports that some of his associates are thinking of defecting to the SDP.
The Social Democratic Party.
Yeah.
You think this is about positioning themselves for the 2027 elections?
It could be.
It's never too early to start maneuvering in politics.
No, it's not. And speaking of politics, banditry is still a major issue in the Northwest.
Yeah, it's a real problem.
The ACF, the Area Consultative Forum, they've called for a state of emergency.
But not everyone agrees with that approach.
No, some of the states are pushing back.
This just goes to show how complex the issue is, right?
Yeah.
There's no easy answer.
Okay, in Ondo State, workers at tertiary institutions, they're not happy.
What's going on?
They've given Governor Ida Tewa a 14-day ultimatum to implement the minimum wage.
Ah, so it's a pay dispute.
Yeah.
These kinds of disputes happen,
Yeah.
Workers are struggling to make ends meet, and they're demanding fair compensation.
Right. And Afe Babalola, the legal scholar, he's speaking out against something else.
What is it?
The unchecked growth of universities.
Interesting. What's his concern?
He's worried about the quality of education.
Right. If there are too many universities and not enough resources,
Yeah.
the quality is going to suffer.
Exactly. And the JNI, the Jama'atu Nasrul Islam, they're issuing a warning.
About what?
They're saying that the attack in Balkos, it could lead to wider anarchy.
So they're worried about the spread of violence.
Yeah.
Religious leaders often have a lot of influence, Their words carry weight. And this warning, it's a way of highlighting the potential consequences of these attacks.
Okay, now for some economic news. ECOWAS has put out a report.
About?
They're saying that Africa loses a staggering $88.6 billion each year because of corruption.
That's a huge amount of money.
It is.
And it really underscores how much damage corruption does to the continent's economies. It holds back development, weakens governance. It's a major problem.
Okay, switching gears, there's some interesting trade data. The U.S. has imported $643 million worth of goods from Nigeria in just the first 2 months of this year.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It shows you how strong the economic ties are between the two countries.
It does. And then there's this ongoing trade war between the U.S. and China.
Oh, right.
China has basically said they won't back down.
Yeah.
Even with the threat of new tariffs.
This is a global issue, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has the potential to affect trade all over the world.
It does. And lastly, some news from India.
What happened?
The police there have arrested 3 Nigerians for money laundering.
It's a reminder that financial crime is a global problem.
Yeah.
And it takes international cooperation to tackle it effectively.
It does. Okay, let's talk about some social issues in development.
Sure.
The First Lady's Renewed Hope Initiative, the RHI, they're doing something pretty big.
What is it?
They're committing $1 billion naira to the fight against cervical cancer.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Cervical cancer is a serious health threat, and this kind of investment, it can make a huge difference in prevention, early detection, and treatment.
Okay, remember that coastal highway project we talked about?
Yeah?
Well, it's moving forward. Segments in Calabar, Akwa Ibom, and Ebony are all set to start construction next week.
Wow. So they're really pushing ahead with that.
Yeah.
This is going to be a big boost for those states, improving transportation, opening up economic opportunities.
Yeah. But then there was this really sad incident in Katsina.
Oh.
A mob killed 2 siblings because they thought they'd stolen livestock.
That's terrible.
I
This
know.
kind of vigilante justice is unacceptable.
It is. It undermines the rule of law.
Yeah, and it puts innocent lives at risk.
And remember the unrest in Plateau State?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the government's response, as we said before, is to deploy more troops.
It's a way to try to contain the violence, but it's not a long-term solution.
No. And you know what's interesting? The Minister of Youth Development,
Yeah.
he actually came out and said he supports protests.
Really? That's a bit unusual for a government minister, isn't it?
It is.
But I guess it's a way of trying to connect with young people, showing that he understands their frustrations.
Yeah, maybe. The government's also making moves in the broadcasting sector.
Oh, what are they doing?
They're planning to invest in new technology, to keep up with the times.
That makes sense. The media landscape is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And if they want to stay relevant, they need to embrace those changes.
Okay, JAMB, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board, they made a concerning discovery.
What did they find?
Over 585 fake A-level certificates.
Wow.
They've arrested 4 people in connection with that.
That's a big deal.
It is.
It really undermines the integrity of our education system.
Yeah.
If people can just buy their way into universities, what does that say about the value of a degree?
Right. And speaking of JMB, they had their mock exams recently.
Oh, yeah.
And they had to pay a lot of money in transport allowances to the monitors.
Like, how much are we talking about?
397 million Naira.
Wow.
It just shows you the scale of these national exams.
It's a huge logistical operation.
It is. And remember, the government's giving money directly to school management committees.
Yeah. 2 billion Naira or something.
2.035 billion to be exact.
It's a way to give them more control over how the money is spent.
Yeah, so they can address the specific needs of their schools.
It's a good idea in theory.
Yeah. And in healthcare, the government is trying to make things a little bit faster.
Oh, how so?
They've set a 1-hour time limit for approving health insurance treatments.
That's great.
Yeah, so people won't have to wait so long to get the care they need.
It's all about improving efficiency and making sure people have timely access to healthcare.
Right. Okay, a UN report has highlighted something really important.
What is it?
The number of people seeking asylum in Nigeria.
Oh, right. Because of the situation in Cameroon?
Yeah, 78,000 Cameroonians and others have come to Nigeria for safety.
It puts a huge strain on resources, you know?
It does.
Providing food, shelter, support, it's a big responsibility.
And it requires both national and international efforts to manage it effectively.
Absolutely. Okay, we talked about the police busting a baby factory in Lagos.
Yeah, that was a horrifying discovery.
It was. It's a reminder of the dark side of society, the things that happen in the shadows.
Yeah.
We have to work harder to protect those who are vulnerable to exploitation.
Okay, in Kaduna, a senator donated food and money to orphans and widows.
That's a good thing to see.
It is.
These acts of generosity, they can provide some much-needed relief.
But as we said before, it's important to address the root causes of these problems.
Yeah, so that people don't need to rely on charity in the first place.
Right. Okay, and remember those youth empowerment programs in Gombe State?
Yeah.
Where they're giving young people training and startup packages?
That's a great initiative.
Yeah, it's all about giving them the tools they need to create their own opportunities.
It's an investment in the future.
It is. And in Delta State, that family is still fighting for justice for their son.
The one who allegedly died in police custody.
Yeah. It's a stark reminder that we need to hold law enforcement accountable.
There has to be consequences for abuse of power.
Yeah. Okay, in River State, there have been some more kidnappings.
Oh no, who was taken?
5 boat passengers.
By pirates.
That's what they're suspecting.
That area has always been dangerous?
It has.
The waterways especially? It's a real security challenge.
It is. And back in Anambra State, the police are still working hard to prevent those Monday sit-at-home orders.
It's a tough situation.
It is.
But they're trying to make sure people can live their lives without fear.
Yeah. And finally, in Osun State, there are those 3,000 displaced villagers.
Right. They lost their home.
And they need help.
We have to do more to support those who've been forced from their homes.
We do. Okay, now for a quick Did You Know segment. Have you ever heard of Giffen goods?
No, ringing a bell. What are they?
They're these kind of strange products where when the price goes up, people actually buy more of them.
Oh, really? How does that work?
It's counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But it usually happens with staple foods like rice, bread, potatoes.
Okay.
And it's mainly in low-income households.
I see.
So if the price of these basic foods goes up, families might actually have to cut back on other more expensive things and rely even more on those now pricier staples.
Ah, that's interesting. So even though they're more expensive, they become more essential.
Exactly.
I'll have to keep an eye out for that.
Okay, another fun fact.
Hit me.
Did you know that the Rolls-Royce hood ornament, that elegant little statue,
Oh, yeah, I love that.
it actually has a name?
It does. What is it?
The Spirit of Ecstasy.
Oh, that's fitting.
It's such a perfect symbol of luxury and, aspiration.
It really is. It embodies everything that Rolls-Royce stands for.
Okay, and last one. This day in history marks a pretty important moment in technology.
Oh, what happened?
Back in 1959, on this very day, COBOL was created.
COBOL.
Yeah, it stands for Common Business-Oriented Language.
Ah, so it's a programming language.
Yeah, one of the first ones, actually. And what's really cool
Yeah.
is that it was primarily designed by a woman,
A woman. Who was that?
Grace Hopper.